Hey guys, so welcome to the brand new show. Now, right before I got started, I was actually joking around with Joanna, which is with this show, it has no name, right? So it's just, hey, welcome to the show. So right now, right before we were kind of brainstorming a few ideas of what we should call it. So what I would say is, if you have any idea of what we should call this show, just leave us a comments below. We'd definitely love to hear from you. But with that being said, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, then be sure to come join us. Now, that community was put together specifically for coaches, consultants, and service providers who are serious about growing to that 6 and 7 figure level within the business. So, if that sounds like you, and if it sounds like you're interested, click on the link below. Come join us. We'd definitely love to have you. And today's guest really needs no introduction because I feel like the entire world, the entire internet knows her. And she goes by the name of Johanna Hunt. Hey, Johanna, welcome.
Hey, thank you. And slight correction, I forgot. It's
Mhm.
Johanna.
Oh,
I
good.
always tell people because they always meet me on social media first and then
Mhm.
they'll meet me in person. So I like to joke it's like, yo, Hana.
Johanna.
And then it's unforgettable.
Okay, good, good. Now that's an interesting pronunciation. What's the pronunciation from? What's your name? What's the origin of your name?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Austria and I grew up in California. So my mom went traveling when she was 20, 18 to 20,
Mhm.
met my dad in California. And then I grew up sort of between a ski resort in California or in Austria and in Northern California, small town.
Mhm.
And then I moved to Canada when I was 20 to ski. I heard about Whistler when I was living in Austria. And I came to British Columbia and then kind of fell in love with the place. And, life takes over, speeds up. And here I am almost 20 years later,
Mhm.
slowly making my way back to California
Yeah.
to my roots.
Got you, got you. So you're from Austria. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
small, tiny town. I actually have been living there for the last couple of years, 2017 to 2019,
Uh-huh.
and then I moved back to Vancouver in the fall. So,
Got you. Yeah, my guest yesterday, he was actually in Austria right now.
oh, nice.
Yeah, he sounds really like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
he
I
sounds.
think most Austrian men do.
Uh-huh.
It's a pretty distinct accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now tell us, what is it that you do?
Yeah, so I'm an online marketer, digital marketer. My main focus is social media marketing
Mm-hmm.
and personal branding for affiliate marketers, network marketers, home business owners. Not so much in that I manage social media for them and that done for you service, but I am a do it yourself service. Build your
Mm-hmm.
own brand, communicate with your audience, build value, build presence, gain visibility, optimize your business, multiple streams of income, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, when you say multiple streams of income, what's your how do you define multiple streams of income?
So, it's interesting. I think a lot of people have like multiple trickles of income.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think of being able to build a personal brand where you're able to have multiple offers that are congruent and serve your audience in a few different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and because we're always growing and evolving, as our business is always growing and evolving, we're collecting tools for our tool belt. And so for me, I found a few different tools along the way that I like to offer people as I'm having conversations. And some different business owners have different needs. And it's not so much about being able to sell everything to everyone, but being able to be resourceful and have some resources that you can offer that are valuable. So I find a lot of times networking has always been something that's been a natural skill for me. And I always wondered if I could actually create a business and a lifestyle out of it. I didn't know that was a thing
Mm-hmm.
for social media. Um, but yeah, it's not about selling everything to everybody, but being able to really have some congruency in your brand. And I mean, there's some great examples, if you think about like Brendan Burchard, for instance. He's an author, he's a coach, he has programs. Those are all multiple offers that serve his audience.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So something you said creating a business, you always wondered whether it was possible to create a business and lifestyle out of networking. Is that what you said?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Well, so for me, a lot of the time I'm spending time connecting dots. So I serve the entrepreneurial audience.
Hmm.
So, people who are building a business, building a brand. And so for me, I spend most of my time creating content, having conversations, and networking. And often I'm able to either fill that need with something that I offer, or I'm able to connect the dots with somebody else. If I can't serve that person, because I'm networking so much for my business, that I can usually find somebody else that I can refer to. So I'm often creating, half of my conversations throughout my day are about how I serve people.
Hmm.
And the other half is about connecting with other entrepreneurs and finding out how I can help them, and then creating referral conversations and referral partnerships.
Hmm. That is so
Yeah.
powerful. That's brilliant. Because networking is one of those skills where it's just so interesting. Because I've always heard the saying that it's really not what you know, it's really who you know. And when I was first getting started on my journey, I didn't really believe that because I was like, no, no, you got to know this stuff. You got to be the best and the best and the best. But
Hmm.
then that only takes you so far. Versus when you start, as you said, connecting the dots, which is reaching out to different individuals and trying to find areas of synergy. That's where like there's so much leverage in there,
Hmm.
which is awesome. And you said that's how you spend most of your time.
It is. Usually, my mornings are spent creating content
Hmm.
where I'm the most creative, and that's where like I can put my ideas onto paper. And then once I get all of that out of my head, then I'll spend time connecting. It's funny actually. This reminds me, I went to school for marketing, and this is a long time ago. And the principles haven't changed, just how we, like, Facebook was brand new when I was going to school for marketing. But I worked in a steakhouse to put myself through school. And it was a really prestigious steakhouse with, it was a little bit like Mad Men, the show.
Hmm.
And I watched how these guys did business, and I got to know them quite well. It was regulars. We only did like one seating reservation, and they would come in for their lunches. And that's what they spent most of their afternoons doing. And so when I got started, I had my own business for a couple of years in the event world, event marketing. And then I moved into direct sales, and I was in direct sales for 6 years. And one of the women, her husband was one of the madmen. She's the best advice she gave me. She said, never eat alone. Just always make sure that you have, each day you're having a coffee with somebody, or you are having lunch with somebody and having conversations. And that was a something that I did naturally, but that was something that I took with me, is that there's so much power in that, because you never know where one conversation is going to lead. And I think a lot of times business owners get really attached to the person they're talking to being the person who's going to be their next customer. And they don't realize that if they approach that relationship differently, they never know who they'll meet through that person.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so powerful. The saying "never eat alone." I've never really thought about. I've heard that saying several times, but I've never really thought of it that way. Which is, hey, don't be just by yourself if you're gonna eat. When you have some time where you can talk and have a conversation, be with somebody else. And
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons I realized I really wanted to start this show as well too, because I found that a big part about, just like you said, with business, the way business typically works, most individuals, when they think about either getting clients or the next deal, they typically think in terms of, okay, I'll just go directly to that person and try to convert them and try to get them to say yes to my stuff.
Yes, the
Versus
one-to-one approach.
yeah, yeah. And I did that a lot when I was first getting started. But then I realized how limiting this is, because the issue that typically comes into play is that you're so limited because now you put all your focus and energy in that one person versus the thousands and the millions of other people that are out there that might possibly need your services. And even with what I intended this show to be, it's really just a platform to network, but in a sense like networking with myself and you, but at the same time, there's an audience listening to as well too, so that we
Mhm.
all network on a much larger scale, which is pretty interesting in terms of you figure that out. So have you always been like a natural connector?
I have, yes. It's not something that I can put a name to. but
Mm-hmm.
I was just naturally good at it. It's how I got into the event world originally. I I'd moved to Whistler, and I didn't know anybody, and I just went out. It didn't matter where I was. If I was in the south of France traveling, or if I was in, whatever ski resort, I would just go out and meet people. And I always had this faith that everything was going to work out. Like I would meet the right person, and opportunities would present themselves. And it has always been that way. I've never felt sort of alone, but I'm also somebody who I believe in giving value.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I take care of other people as well. And so it's just a law of reciprocity.
That was
Sometimes that
spot
word
on.
gets me. And
You said
I will
spot
tell
on.
you, I mean, having been through like a couple of recessions, it's never been an issue, because when you build a network and you build relationships beyond whether that person buys from you or not, um, that's just how it works. And I found that more than ever. Like I've been really impressed with the community, um, and the relationships that I've built, and how we've all come together. And the focus, I think the people who've survived the best right now are the people who haven't been self-focused, but they've been still focused on how they serve other people and how they
Mhm.
can make those connections for other people. And so I've definitely felt like there's been a bit of a step up in that, in more FaceTimes, more interviews, more coming together. And I like that. I love seeing that shift and seeing people move more towards that, and kind of remembering that if we took away social media and all our fancy tools and all the automation that we have, and if all of that went away, we still have the ability to build relationships and connect and communicate. And so the principles are the same as they've always been.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
so powerful. And that's something I keep learning over and over again in on my own journey. Because when I first got started in entrepreneurship, it was one of the things when, especially when I got online, I started realizing that the people with influence were the kind of like the individuals who maybe they were creating content, they were group owners or something to where they had some kind of audience. And I realized it was just myself. And I was like, man, I cannot. How do you get there? Because I'm like, okay, if I have to do this alone, it's going to take a long time. So I really had to kind of figure out the skills. And I remember one specific instance, I was just getting started on LinkedIn, and I saw the group owners, they had a lot of control, but I didn't have a group at the time. And I kind of found a way to befriend one of the popular group owners at the time. And just by doing that, it opened up so many opportunities for me, because now I could kind of like, because we became friends in a sense, we kind of built this relationship. All of a sudden, the opportunities that opened up to me was like way beyond my what I saw before, versus when I didn't have that networking mentality. And I know
Yes.
I experienced it over and over, because with social media, it changes so much. Like the tools, as you said, the tools, the technology, they change so much. But the only thing that remains when it's all said and done is, hey, what relationships did you build, and how strong are they? Because when
Mm-hmm.
everything stops working, that's the only thing that's left, right?
I agree 100%. And I love that you said that, because it's easy for people to get wrapped up when they think things aren't working.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Usually they haven't given it enough consistency yet and time. But often they get caught up in, oh, there's a problem with the algorithm, or oh, what's happened to the algorithm? Let's blame the algorithm. For the last 8 years, I have consistently been showing up every single morning and every single evening on social media, building my brand. And it's gotten better over time. My videos have improved, the value that I'm able to offer has improved, but I haven't changed my strategy in all that time. I've just been really, really consistent with providing value, showing up, making connections, creating conversation, and taking that conversation, into Messenger and actually getting to know people. um, I don't have algorithm problems. Sure, some of my posts don't get as many likes, and maybe they're just not that great. you
Yeah.
know Not everything you put out there is going to resonate. But usually you don't have an algorithm problem. Usually it's, you've got to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, yeah. I know that's so big too. And I think that's what you just shared here, which is because most individuals, and it's the same thing with my community as well too, as I work with coaches, consultants, most of them, they all complain that they're not getting clients. But then when you watch, okay, what are you trying to do to get clients? And you see how everything that most of them are trying to do is just hacking the system. Like, what's this software? What's this tool? What's this one
What's
thing that
the
I could do
quickest
to
way?
figure it out? And that never
True.
works. Yeah, it's always something like you figure it out, but then it breaks. You figure it out and then it breaks. And don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of this as well too. Because when I started off, that's exactly what I did. But then when I figured out relationships, I was like, man, this is a lot more stable than anything else I've ever figured out. So might as well put all my eggs in the relationship basket versus the trying to hack the social media algorithms and stuff, right?
It's true. And you know, it only really takes, like, if there's so much value in just scheduling in 20 minutes each day into your calendar to connect with other entrepreneurs, just
Hmm.
to send that quick note or send some value. And I mean, we can do it so easily now, you know, like, I remember some of the tips I was getting old school were, you know, sitting down and writing cards and having to go and post them.
Yeah.
Um, and now we can send a voice clip so quickly and just check on somebody and see how they're doing, see what they need in their business, see if there's somebody we can connect them to, fire off an email or a group message. And I mean, it's just really, so there's no excuse not to take the time to do it, right? And that 20
Hmm.
minutes has huge value.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so powerful too. Because, and I like what you said earlier, which is not the person you're talking to might not be the client for you, but they could open up opportunities. And I remember reading this book by Joe Girard. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's called How to Sell Anything to Anyone.
I have heard of
And
it, yes.
yeah, yeah. So in that book, he talks about how he sold cars because I think he's in the Guinness Book of Records for selling the most cars in a year. I think when I
Hmm.
look at the numbers, either like 26,000 or 28,000 like
Yeah.
cars. Like, how is that even possible? But he told his strategy, which is he kind of built relationships and got like everyone I guess he called them like bird dogs or something, but he had everyone kind of like as on a kind of like a referral basis. And the thing he
Hmm.
said was that when it came to relationships, he figured out that each person knew about 250 people in there, not like know them personally, but they're in the circle to where they have some type of influence with them. And he said the
Hmm.
way he figured that out was, I think he said he went to like a funeral or something, and either he was standing around waiting, and he asked the guy like, how do you know how much stuff to kind of put out and get set up? And the guy there said at the end of each funeral, he usually there's a list and he counts every single people, everyone who shows up, and he realized that the average is typically about 250. So that's when he said he realized like each person has the ability to influence 250 people. So he kind of took it up on himself to say, okay, everyone I meet, I'm gonna go out of my way to kind of help them get what they want and go out of my way to kind of help support them because I know that if once someone does need a car, they'll come back to
Hmm.
me. And
I
he did
love
that
that.
so much, yeah. And I think that's so powerful because that's one of the things where when you really start thinking about if you really want to succeed, whether it's in life and business, all it takes is just one relationship, getting it solid, building it up, and then once you have that solid relationship, building another one and another one and another one. And as you said, you've been
Hmm.
doing this for like the past 8 years. I could just imagine the place you're at with relationships, opportunities, all those things that come up for you.
It's true because, you know, I think I probably had about 200, 250 friends on Facebook when I started. I didn't
Hmm.
have Instagram, I didn't have LinkedIn or Twitter or any of that stuff. I mostly just focus on Facebook now because I want to have those quality conversations. And I feel too stretched to be on multiple platforms.
Hmm.
Even with I am still on Instagram, but I typically just drive the traffic and the audience over to my Facebook and over to my website. So I think of Instagram a little bit like speed dating,
Hmm.
right? It's really easy to meet a cold market there and move them over. But I didn't have a huge network when I started. And that's usually people's excuse for not starting. I
Hmm.
don't know enough people. And I didn't know influential people. And my world looked very, very different. So I had to spend a lot of time in Facebook groups, and I went to a lot of networking events. I went to a lot of meetups, did some trade shows, and then I would bring those people into my social media world and start to build the relationship with them and gain that exposure. Um, but what I found was that if you spend some time inside of those Facebook groups and you just find a few that really resonate with you, you really resonate with the person who runs that Facebook group. You can build some really solid relationships. But what's great about that is that Facebook then triggers your algorithm to all these other people connected to these new people you're meeting. So you start to diversify your network just through a few people.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have a constant flow of new friend requests and new friends being suggested, and they're a very different type of person. They're all entrepreneur minded. And so, it kind of shifts you out. A lot of people, they get their friend suggestions, and they're usually people that they went to school with, or like within that tight knit circle, that 250. Yeah. So, just spending a little bit of time. Again, I like to do things in 20-minute increments, like 20 minutes of collaboration, 20 minutes inside of a Facebook group, connect with a few different people, and then you'll start to trigger new connections.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
powerful, so powerful. So tell us, it seems like networking, and that's a crazy thing I've seen since I've been interviewing individuals for this show. I think I've probably interviewed about maybe 30 something individuals, and every single one alludes back to networking is the thing. Like, it's all about relationships, starting these conversations and getting that
Mhm.
human interaction going. So, based on that, for yourself, what would you say if you had to look back on your life, and you can't say networking, you have to say something else. But if you had to look back on your life to really see what got you to where you are today, which is your level of success, what's one thing you would say that you believe got you to where you are today?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to choose one thing. um, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with resilience, because I didn't grow up. I mean, even though I was able to go between Austria and California, a lot of people think that my family was wealthy. But actually, we made a lot of sacrifices to make that happen. And sometimes my dad would have to stay home because we could only afford the flights for my mom and I to go back. My dad's a realtor. My mom's a hairstylist. So I come from a family who had their own businesses, but that looked so different back then. And then all my family in Austria, they run pensions and B&Bs, and they're all in tourism. And again, it's that service-based trading time for money, one-man show, and there's not a lot of leverage in it. And so for me, I saw that my parents were able to take time away from work and for us to go back. But I saw how much they had to save in order to make that happen. And they also put me through a private school education, which was mostly for, one, for safety, and two, because they wanted to see me be able to excel. And again, they made a lot of sacrifices for that. And I found that a lot of that had to do with the fact that they had to create all of their own income. And so when we went away, they basically took that time off, and they didn't have any income coming in that time. And so it was always taking from here to fill this need, and then taking from here to fill this need. So they had to sacrifice a lot of the other dreams and other goals that they had. And so for me, when I started in my event business, I was again in that service-based business. It was me doing all of my sales, my marketing, my networking, creating the events, creating the proposals. I mean, just doing all of the work. And I didn't see that freedom. I didn't see that leverage. I didn't see how I was going to, in the next 10 years, really create that success without multiplying myself. And I knew I could get there at some point and start to hire people, but I didn't really see the vision for that or what that would take. So I read The Cash Flow Quadrant. It was one of the very first business books I ever read. And I read about the difference between being self-employed and a business owner, and being an investor and being an employee. And that really put it into perspective for me of where my parents were, where my family was, and where I was at. And that's when I shifted my business. That's when I started to do research. That's when I started to sort of envision something different.
Hmm.
And I saw social media as the platform to do it. I actually remember when they launched fan pages, I started my own fan page called the JoJo Fan Club because I can get away with stuff like that. Um, but I knew I had to figure out how to work smarter, not harder. And I knew I needed to create passive income and residual income. And, I ended up, it was in 2011 when I made that switch out of the event world. I took time off to be home and raise my daughter,
Hmm.
my eldest, and she was 2 months old when I started. And I saw myself going into those old patterns of the way I was raised. And
Uh-huh.
I started to see, debt accumulating, being stretched for time, having to start to make choices between time and money and family and shifting those priorities. And it triggered something in me. It triggered that upbringing that I had. And not that my upbringing was terrible, but it was hard. And it was hard on my parents, and it was hard on their marriage, and it was hard on me as a child. And so I wanted something different. I didn't want to keep that pattern going. So I would say that, yeah, resilience, getting through that time, reflecting on it, looking at how do I do things differently, and how do I learn, and really being committed to understanding that you can learn and acquire any skill. And so I just pushed. There was times where, other moms had housekeeping and they had daycare and they had all those things, and I was home with a 2-month-old baby Googling how to figure this stuff out. Because I had time. I had more time than I had money at that time. And so I had
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that resilience that I built as a child through hardship helped me through that time. It helped me through those sleepless nights. It helped me through having a child who never napped.
Uh-huh.
And I love it, because a lot of people, I love having that story, because a lot of people will come to me with the excuse of, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have this, I don't have that. And I'm like, I don't buy it.
Hmm.
I understand, and I have huge empathy for where you're coming from. But if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I believe the same thing as well. So I believe resilience is definitely a key aspect to getting ahead in life. But at the same time, I definitely believe that, like you said, it's one of those things where you have to show up. There's no excuses. You cannot, like, you can't accept it from yourself. Maybe other people could do it, but when it comes to yourself, especially as an entrepreneur, there's no excuses. So that's
It's
lovely. Yeah. So tell us, what are you up to? What do you what you got going on? What do you have going on?
Yeah. So I work in the affiliate marketing space, social retail affiliate marketing, and that is my main stream, my main source of income.
Hmm.
So I have a partner company that I work with, and we're in the health and wellness, as well as the business side. That has been a big focus for me for the last couple of years. I started sort of 2017 in December. And then I did high ticket affiliate sales, because I had so many people coming to me and asking me how I was building my business on social media. And, I'd created some systems and some automation, and just started to really dive into that digital marketing. So I had a lot of people asking me for those resources. So I started affiliating other people's programs that I was using and getting results from.
Hmm.
But I did find I was getting a lot of feedback when I was plugging people into these programs, was that they wanted to learn from me, and they wanted to see how I was applying it. And that's where personal branding really comes in. You can take these skill sets and you can apply them, but you have to apply your special sauce, your personality, your perspectives, your beliefs. And so, with that feedback and a lot of people requesting to learn from me, I developed my own program. It's called the Authentic Influencer Marketing Academy, AIM. And inside of that, it's really for business owners who are just really learning the ins and outs of social media marketing. So, how to establish their brand and their story and their message, and how to create content, valuable content that actually converts. So, really speaking to the pain points, the benefits, the objections, how they serve their audience and really diving deeper into what that actually looks like, creating meaningful content and conversations around your brand. So that's what I've been working on, and it's good. I actually just launched it about a month or two ago. It's hard to know because quarantine has kind of put a fuzziness on this time frame.
It's like, who keeps track of days and time anymore? It's just like, it's just another day.
Yeah, like a month ago. No, it's probably been 2 months ago.
Nice, nice.
And so I'm really enjoying that as well. So I do a little bit of affiliate marketing, a little bit of creating my own courses, and then have some other ideas for courses that I'd like to continue creating as the needs pop up, and sort of develop out that academy.
Perfect. Now,
Yeah.
while you were speaking here, as far as when you mentioned your aim, what do you call it? Yeah, affiliate influence marketing. What's aim? How do you?
Authentic Influencer Marketing Academy.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
good.
So I was walking in the Alps. This was in probably, I think it was sometime in 2018. And the idea for the course came to me, but I wasn't ready to create it. I was still building out my other, I like to build one income stream at a time. And then I sort of park the other ideas. And so I can put my full attention into it. And so I don't actually know why that came up, but I liked the acronym for it, AIM, because I want people to aim for something, to always be moving forward. And it just happened to fit together.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And while you were saying yours, I think I finally got the idea for what to call this podcast. So we did it. I had no idea this episode was going to turn into a how to name your podcast episode, but it did.
I
And
love it.
yeah, yes. But I'll share with you for everyone watching. I'm not going to say it on there, but you and I'll share it with you afterwards. So, guys, if you want to know what the name of the show is,
Yay, I feel special.
tune into the next one. Okay, good. So, if someone wanted to find out more about what you're up to and how to contact you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah. So, I have a blog, johannahunt.ca. Very simple. Everything for me is under johannahunt.ca with a J. And so you can head over to my blog. I've got tons of free training and resources. I've got my free social media guide over there as well, which is for people who are really trying to develop those habits around social media marketing and really gain some consistency, because that's what it takes. And these principles, these tactics can apply to any business. So you can pick that up there. And then on Facebook, I am facebook.com/johannahunt.ca, and Instagram, the same thing, Instagram/johannahunt.ca.
Okay, love it. And guys, if you're watching this live or on the replay, the link should be right below this video. So be sure to check out what Johanna is up to, and yeah, follow her. She has some good stuff. Now, with that being said, do you have any final words before we end here?
Well, I always have lots of words. I would say, this is such an incredible time that we have to be building a business on social media. Like I felt that way when I got started, and I feel just as excited about it now as I ever have before. But I can't remember where it was I read this. Maybe it was Forbes. I read that by 2020, 50% of households would have a side hustle. I don't know what they were predicting.
Somebody might have
But it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And so, there's never this right time to get started. Some people see this time right now as the opportunity to create something big, and some people see it as hindering to create something. And you're right. Whichever one you believe, you're right. But this is an incredible time for us to be building brands and having conversations and serving other people and coming together as a community. And social media is such a fantastic platform to do that. And what I find interesting is that even if you think you don't have a personal brand because you're not building a business, if you are showing up on social media, you have a personal brand. Your reputation, who you are, who you're being, is that personal brand. And so why not take that and apply it to something that can create some longevity and some leverage and some freedom and some financial security for your life, right? If we're spending all that time posting memes, why not take that time and put it into creating something that can pay dividends in the end and create some wealth and some freedom for your family.
Awesome. Love it, Johanna.
Yeah.
I'm sold, man. Goodness, I gotta start my side hustle now. You got me. You got me.
Awesome. We'll have to talk some more.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Well, hey, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. Appreciate you stopping by. And we
All mine. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll be in touch, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Awesome.
Bye, guys. Thanks for watching.
Hmm.